love this show, but very messy. They'll set something up and then they'll wait several episodes to do something with it every time. It's just kind of lazy in my opinion. Like, oh look, Rogue actually joined the Brotherhood. Let's wait 4 episodes to do something with that. Oh, here's Mr. Sinister. Let's wait 4 episodes to do something with that. It's just a reoccurring thing in this show. This is the main poster, which leaves out Kitty Pryde. She did way more than Nightcrawler did. And Rogue was a bad guy for most of the season. They clearly were just going for the more iconic ones. Juggernaut? Why is Juggernaut on this? He was in 2 episodes and probably had less than a minute of screen time. And now this part is actually in every intro. If you watch the show, you're going to be wondering, why the fuck is Angel on there? Because Angel was not important at all. The most important thing he did, which was a big deal, was he was the one that gave them the mansion that they're in now because it blew up because of Emma Frost. But other than that, he's hardly in the show because of an excuse they use that his dad doesn't want him to join them because they're mutants, and if so, he'll lose all his funding and all of his money to help mutants. Then eventually he becomes Archangel and he shows up in one more episode after that, and then he's done. And he just gets the shit beat out of him in the episode he returns in. At first they tried to talk to him, and they don't even explain how they're not going to do that anymore. They just beat the shit out of him. Cyclops takes off his glasses and goes full blast on him. We get Mojo, which I'm really excited because I love Mojo. I get Mr. Sinister in several episodes, but they make him a lackey for Apocalypse, which they didn't get to do anything with Apocalypse since season 2 got canceled. He is in like 2 episodes, and obviously he doesn't do much. He's in like the very end of the show and a little, oh look, it's Apocalypse, isn't that cool moment, and then that's it. Because clearly he was going to be a season 2 villain, which I'm saying villain because they used multiple villains this season. Oh, and there was definitely a bit of hypocrisy in the show. They throw a fit about having to take this one mutant who wants to be in MRD custody to MRD custody. They're like, oh, that's the whole thing we're fighting against. But then a few episodes later, they willingly put Harpoon in MRD custody. And then a few episodes later, they say they're going to drop off some bad guys at MRD custody. It's just crazy. Where do they draw the line? Is it okay to drop villains off, but not good people? Like, you hate the MRD so much, but it's okay if it's a bad guy. I don't understand. Bishop is in this show. He doesn't get his costume until later. And he really isn't that much like Bishop. Sure, he has his powers and he wears his suit later in the show, but he really doesn't remind me of Bishop. The first few episodes are still probably some of my favorite startings to a show. It's a good way to start the show, is Wolverine saving a kid. And then him saving the family too, when they get in trouble because of him. No surprise there, that always happens with Wolverine. We get Gambit in episode 5, he doesn't show up until they need him to cause trouble for the season finale. So yeah, he's not a huge deal in this show. Wolverine vs. Hulk is a great episode. Arguably, I liked it better than the Wolverine vs. Hulk movie, though that movie was still decent. A 20-minute show was able to pull it off better than an hour movie. I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was like an hour and 20 minutes. Mystique kind of disappears from the show too. They give her a love angle with Wolverine. They're like, oh yeah, part of his memories that got wiped is that he used to date Mystique. Relationships aren't a huge thing in this show. There are stuff that talk about it. Like, they talk about Wolverine's past, and he goes and fights Silver Samurai, and they talk about how he used to love Maiko. And there's stuff like that. But romance isn't a huge thing. So I still thought it was weird that they would make Iceman straight in this show. Because he's been gay for like a long time. But he keeps getting represented in these shows and movies as straight for some reason. It's just 2 throwaway gags. But there's one in like, I think it's episode 3. It's not too long after Emma Frost joins the team and Kitty Pryde is like, oh, she can read your mind, dummy. And then there's a joke later when him and Kitty Pryde are eating. And then he has to go out and eat with her. And then that's it. Iceman honestly isn't a big part in this show either. He's kind of a joke character. Storm isn't used too much. It really is Wolverine, and that's it. It's called Wolverine the X-Men, but X-Men aren't used too much. They go in the past, they go in the future. It's a very sloppy, messy show, but it is entertaining. It just doesn't have the best writing. They were just doing too much. So they didn't focus on the characters. None of the characters are really memorable besides certain episodes, because in other episodes they have no personality or very few lines. Storm's most memorable episode is her destroying a place, so... And oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. They have a reference to the comics, the original X-Men and their original costumes, and even Iceman's original design. It's a pretty good show. We do get Wolverine in the X-Force costume, kinda. As you can see, it's more black than gray. Domino used to be a big part of the show, and then they just kind of forget about her. Same with Toad and Blob. And then there's other villains that are only used as plot devices, like Harpoon. He's only used as a plot device, and then he disappears from the show. Because it's not like Mr. Sinister isn't in the show again. He is part of the setup for season 2. And he's in 2 more episodes after that. They just forget about him and bring in Arclight and Vertigo and Blockbuster, but just completely forget about Harpoon. And then Juggernaut, like I've already said, was just a plot device. He's in the episode to break the girl out of jail. He gets knocked out, and Kitty Pryde uses his powers to fight the girl. Well, not really fight, but you know what I mean. And he only shows up again when Cyclops is having his Jean fantasies, where he thinks he sees Jean, and then he escapes. And that's it for Juggernaut. Just a plot device. But it was still cool to see him in the show. And for being a show that's like, I think 13 years old now, it still looks really good. which you can't say about most shows. But overall, it was a pretty good show. Just like I said, messy writing, jumping back and forth. Because this isn't a comedy show like Good Luck Charlie, where I will criticize it but not as harshly. Because it's not something that follows up. This is something that should be following up with episodes, but it doesn't. You can't have a good cliffhanger ending and then wait 4 episodes to do something with it. It just doesn't work. People are gonna lose interest. Can you imagine if Moon Knight did that? If it had, more episodes? Since it's only a 6-episode show. Like, the episode where Moon Knight dies. He doesn't really die. But they waited 4 episodes to do something with that. A lot of people would lose interest or completely forget about that. So yeah, other than that, show was decent. Sabretooth shows up for a little bit. Though he doesn't do much. He's mainly just a plot device too. X-23 shows up. She doesn't show up again until like near the end of the series where she's in the future. It was just a messy show, but a good show. I do think it should have gotten one more season, just to see where season 2 could have went.